Well, pleasant good morning, sports fans. Welcome to another key edition to the PR Man and the Coach Talking Ball on the BallFather Podcast, presented by Sportskeeda. I'm Reggie Roberts, longtime NFL PR man, former NFL writer, and we're joined today by our resident in-house baseball scribe, the great Chris Domino in Atlanta. What's up, Big Chris?
I'm doing well, Reggie. Happy opening week to everybody.
Happy opening week. I mean, it's always something really, really exciting about this time of year. I mean, the basketball playoffs are starting to kick in. The NHL's season's kind of winding down, so the playoffs will be starting there pretty quick. Football, everything's going on. It's kind of the non-football playing season, the way Mike Smith used to describe it. And baseball, with the new rules, all the stuff with the bases and the violations. I mean, it's been really, really exciting. I've been really thrilled to be reading all this stuff. But I know that you you've got a bird's eye view looking at one of the top teams in baseball, the Braves, the National League. Give us your thoughts on the start of the season and what have you observed only about a week or so into the season?
Yeah, so here's the great news. It's a crowded landscape out there. There's a whole bunch of forms of social media. There's a whole bunch of places where people dock content. And baseball's had a hard time sort of grabbing their piece of it, short of something big or scandalous happening. So with all the rule changes and the excitement that I think it can and I think will generate, it's nice. We also have Augusta. We got the Masters going on where I am,
right.
But it's a national story. The NCAA just finished up. National story. Baseball's always sort of had that, okay, here comes opening day. We can grab a little bit, but then what happens on April 15th? What happens on May 1st? What happens with a lot of teams getting eliminated? And then baseball sort of has struggled, not locally, because it's definitely a local or regional game, but what about nationally? You need stars. You need guys that you would pay money to see, or guys that on a Tuesday night you go, they're on my TV. Baseball's starting to generate a little bit more of that. Ohtani, the World Baseball Classic,
right.
Juan Soto, and Spencer Strider, a guy who I don't know how many people know. He's got 183 strikeouts in his last 22 starts. That's an ungodly number. Now, you cross your fingers, you hope a guy like that stays healthy because you want to see what he might be able to do over a period of time that's 2 and 3 and 5 years, and God willing, maybe a little bit more. Time of play, stolen bases, more balls in play. And let me just do this real quick. The one thing that I don't think anybody sort of talked about with the rule changes, no more shifts, or at least shifts the way that we've seen it the last few years. You're going to see a prime spotlight going on defense again. You're going to ask second basemen to be athletes. They used to be. Then it was, let's just hide a guy there. He hits 28 home runs. We'll let him play second base. We can do the shift. Outfielders. You want balls in play? That means outfielders are going to have a chance to pull one back, make a diving catch, make a good throw, make a bad throw. So the extra added benefit now is you're going to start to see defensive highlights. Where it used to just be bombs. Who's hitting a bomb and who's bat flipping? Now there's a chance because more balls are in play. You're going to see guys make defensive plays that are going to be highlights as well.
That is interesting. I knew anybody would have a out of this world take on it because you're right. I mean, you're right. Second baseman used to be athletes. Joe Morgan, some of the guys who played in the game could dive in the hole, make a play. I think you're absolutely right. How have the players adjusted to the pitch clock and because I watched the game the other day. Obviously, I'm watching only my team. Obviously, it's really pathetic, but I'm sorry. It's the game seems sped up.
It is. It is. Look, so on average, 2 hours, 37 minutes. I'll give you an idea. The peak game a handful of years ago was 3 hours, 11 minutes. We haven't had a season. It's been since 1979 that we had a season where the average game was 240 or less. So there'll be a little bit of an adjustment. There'll be a little bit of small sample size. What does it mean extrapolated? But they did 8,000 game studies in the minor leagues. They knocked out 25 minutes a game. That's legit. 25 minutes a game is legit with more action, with more singles, with more stolen bases. How's it going to happen? Look, Shohei Ohtani, because he's just special, he had a pitch clock violation as a pitcher on the same day he had a hitter violation as a hitter. That's how different this dude is. He actually got popped with both ends of a violation. Manny Machado the other day in the first inning got thrown out of a game. Now, it didn't Donnybrook. Yeah, but he got punched out on a hitter violation. They said he wasn't engaged. And he's like, what just happened? And the umpire was trying to explain it to him. And at that point, he was like, well, I've had enough. He said the magic word, and he gets tossed in the first inning. So there's going to be some adjustment, but it's even interesting to talk about how the game is being umpired, and not necessarily in a bad way. Like, you know this in the NFL. If I know an offensive lineman's name and a referee's name, my God, they had a bad day. Right. Umpires, it's been the same thing. But now you're actually watching umpires because let's find out how they do their job, and let's find out if they get a little bit more lax as the season goes along. It's just an extra storyline for baseball.
You know, you one of your favorite lines is you'd rather trade parades for prospects, which by the way, I've incorporated that line. Yeah. I love that. The young shortstop of the Yankees, Anthony Volpe, made a lot of news because he obviously had a tremendous spring training, and there was a big ceremony thing. They promoted him. His parents were there at Yankee Stadium. Yeah. Then his first week he steals 3 bases. Am I over expecting too much? Because it looks like he's doing what most guys who have had less than 100 at bats in the show do. He looks a little lost sometimes, especially when he gets 2 strikes. He looks a little bit like he's tentative or he's a little confused. Am I imagining things, or that's what I'm seeing?
All right. So let's use an analogy. If you're a parent, remember when you put your kid on a bike for the first time, training wheels.
Yes.
Then you take the training wheels off and you run next to them, and oh my God! But you want to let them fall a little bit. Like, you want to let them know that, hey, here's what's going to happen. If you get good at this, I don't have to be with you, and you're not going to fall. So I think that's sort of it. It's funny. Ronald Acuna, Juan Soto, these young guys who've had a lot of success, they kind of have screwed it up for every other young guy who needs a little bit of time, because fans go, well, where's my Juan Soto? I don't know. He's playing in San Diego. He used to play in Washington, because there's only a few of these guys. Right. You got to let them grow. And what's interesting about that spot, look, everybody knows the Derek Jeter thing sort of hangs over, even though I feel good for the kid in this regard. There was some shortstop play between Derek Jeter and him. He's a 21-year-old guy. They start to do, the last regular shortstop the Yankees had that was 21 years old was a guy named Derek Jeter. I get it. You want to do those things. But I'm happy he wasn't following the guy. Like, we know that in sports. Never be the guy to follow the guy. Be the guy who follows the guy. Right. So Volpe, I think, is going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like, we were talking about this the other day on an NFL podcast with regards to the drama that's taking place in Wisconsin up there with, the one guy goes into the cave and tries to face what's going on. Now, there was a big story the other day in one of the Milwaukee papers about, is Jordan Love the guy? And there was even one report that said, well, maybe the Packers will try to get a quarterback. He's following the guy. Jordan Love, who hadn't played for 3 seasons, is following the guy. And there's questions of whether he can play or whether he can't play. Who knows? Can he play? Who's gonna know? Who knows?
Yeah. Here's the good news, though. Like, I've always said, if you bring a guy up too soon, you could ruin him. And that's been a little bit more with pitchers and hitters. If he gets knocked around, if you can't handle that, you weren't ready to be up here anyway. I don't even care about the physical numbers. You think about the Yankees, Joe DiMaggio to Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle got sent down. People don't know this. Mickey was going to quit. He's in the minor leagues. He's from Oklahoma. His father shows up and says, Mickey's thinking his father's going to give him his pep talk. His father pulls his suitcase out and starts throwing his stuff in it. He goes, no problem, man. Come on, I got a job for you at the mines. Like, you want to just sort of have a reality check? Sometimes you don't know where the reality check is going to... Carl Yastrzemski, a Hall of Fame player, followed Ted Williams, who's a Hall of Fame player. Jim Rice follows Ted Williams, and Carl Yastrzemski becomes a Hall of Fame player. Sometimes the expectation is good for guys. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. The spotlight's on. So what are you going to do, and how quickly? By the way, here's the best news. Keep your head down a little bit. Bat flips and everything else, I'm all for everybody having fun. But I think you want to figure out who are you, and don't play to the camera, because that stuff will bite you a little bit if you're pretending to be mentally tough, you're going to get found out. One thing about Volpe, there was a very funny picture up on the dugout steps. Aaron Judge and Volpe, and the first caption that I saw was, bring your son to work day, because they don't look like the same species. No. But it's also a visual that's pretty funny, and I think baseball could use a little bit more of that too.
The wonderful thing about just to sort of finish up with the Yankees, I read a story yesterday about Judge talked about this offseason, where he says he's done it every season, where he does a lot of mental work. He reads a lot of self-help books. Mm-hmm. He sort of, he said Aaron Boone's talking about, you can set your watch to it. Every time before he comes to bat, he goes to they've got like a mental coach, guy who's like coach of mental health. He goes to his office and there's all these videos playing, there's all these sayings in his office taped on the wall and stuff. And he says he goes and he looks at it and he visualizes himself having success. And some of that's permeated with the team. And he's sort of kind of taken Volpe under his wing. He's trying to help Aaron Hicks through whatever the hell's going on with him, which I think
he's a captain. Reg, remember, they gave him the captaincy once they signed that deal. So there is a responsibility that comes with that. But there are some guys who do it his way, and there are other guys who are like, I don't know about any of that stuff. That'll just clog up my brain. See it, hit it. So the game is sort of played in a whole bunch of different ways, depending upon what type of cat you are.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. Well, whatever it is, it ain't working. It's not working right now with Donaldson. It's not working right now with Hicks. And I'm not sure what the answer is for, especially, as soon as they paid Hicks that money, I said, you know what, you pay the guy the money. Okay, here we go. He hadn't done anything in 3 years, so I'm not fearing it's going to end well for him. It's
funny because money is. I was just going to tell you a couple of quick things that maybe people don't know or how. The top 4 payrolls are under 500. The bottom 4 payrolls are over 500. That's teams like Tampa, $73 million. Here's one that, put this one in your back pocket. The entire Cincinnati Reds starting rotation, 5 guys, is $5.6 million. One of the guys is making $2.6 million. So that's what they're paying for their entire rotation. The New York Mets have 2 guys making $43 million apiece. Added up, they have 2 guys getting 86. Cincinnati Reds got $5.6 million in 5 starters. It just, look, they're not all created equally. The dollars aren't the same. Some guys get long-term contracts. Doesn't work. Aaron Judge had maybe the greatest free agent walk year ever. Made himself $140 million. All these things are in play. At the end of the day, can you pitch it? Can you catch it? Can you hit it? Right. And what you get on the 1st and the 15th, while you might have a back of a card that says, oh, look, you're supposed to be doing this. Here's the one thing that general managers hope for. It's the concept of Moneyball, but it's just even easier than reading the whole book. How many guys play above their contract? If you don't have multiple guys playing above their contract, you don't win. Because I don't care what you're paying a guy. He's still at some point as a $10 million player has to play like a 20. You're paying him 20, sometimes he's got to be a 30. The guy you're paying $800,000 to, if that guy's playing as a $10 million player, there are going to be wins at the end of the day. So as much talk as there is about money, New York Mets, highest payroll ever. 10 years ago, the Houston Astros were the lowest paying franchise in baseball. Their payroll was $24 million. They lost 111 games. Fast forward, tank, don't spend money. Now they got a $200 million payroll and 2 World Series in the last 5 years. If your organization does it right, if you're really trying, after you're not trying, things like that can happen to you.
My brother's a huge Astros fan, and he couldn't wait to send me that ridiculous looking ring they just got a couple of days or a couple of weeks ago. But you look up and down that line, they got a perennial all-star in center field who can really hit the. Talking about the guy who hits left-handed, and what's it, Alvarez?
Yordan Alvarez just hit his 100th home run. He was the fifth fastest player to it in games played. Right. He's a stud, and like people will tell you, people argue, oh, there's no such thing as clutch. Nonsense. Of course there's clutch. There's clutch in life. There's clutch in sports. There's clutch at a bar when you decide, hey, I'm going to saddle up to somebody. Some guys are better at it than others. Yordan Alvarez is a good player who becomes even better once the moment matters.
Speaking of a bar, my brothers and I were on vacation. We were in Houston when they were playing. When the Astros were down there last strike against Seattle, and we're sitting there, bar full of it's kind of a mixed crowd. 6 Seattle fans, Houston fans, and I'm kind of thinking the game's over. I'm thinking they're done, they're finished. And the ball he hit, it wasn't a fat fastball right down Broadway. I mean, he went down and got it. He hit it back to Houston. I mean, he's clutch. The shorts MVP, he's clutch. Bregman is tough as nails. And then they got guys who can throw it. They lose Verlander, and they got the guy that does the rock the baby thing, and then they got the other guy, Bromber, whatever his name is.
Yep. Yeah, and here's the other one with them, and it's with a couple of teams. When you talk about what does it matter? Well, home field advantage has always been a football thing. People talk about you always get 3 points, and in baseball, the numbers sometimes don't bear it out. But if you better be good at home if you're only going to be 500 on the road. The game has evolved. Look, this rule change thing, it's 50 years ago that the DH came into play. 50 years ago, a guy named Ron Bloomberg was the first guy to take an at-bat. He was a Yankee, DH, 50 years ago. We had 8 teams in each league until 1969. So it was win your league, go to the World Series. Then in 1969, 2 divisions. Divisional play comes in. 95, wild card comes in. Interleague play comes in. This group of stuff that they've done is the biggest change in baseball since the DH or how many teams are in baseball. What does that mean? You can't do this all the time. So you better take advantage of, if you're going to pop the game, if you're going to do something different, change the game. Schedule. Everybody is going to play everybody this year. You went from 19 games in your division to 13. All of these things added up. It's the biggest monumental change that the game has seen in 100 plus years. So do you get something out of it? You better create some more stars. You better create more action, shorter games. Baseball's in the best place it's been in to do the things that they've been trying to figure out forever. One more. Here's the thing that they would like, and this is sort of taboo. They would love more betting on baseball. The NFL is king for a lot of reasons, and a big part of it is betting.
Yeah.
33 states now have sports betting. Stuff on your phone, live betting. Baseball would die, would kill to absolutely have this game be more bet on, because that just generates more excitement as well.
You know what? That's a really, really good point, because for the longest time as a former employee at the league office, Chris, I remember going to seminar after seminar after seminar when I worked there in the early 90s about, we don't want to be associated with gamblers. We don't want to be anywhere to have our game, the shield, so to speak, harnessed with gambling. And now, we got a team in Las Vegas for crying out loud.
And that's just the beginning. I mean, this in-game betting, this ability, if you're trying to sell a seat to your team, you've got it all wrong. It's not the ass in the seat. It's the entertainment. It's the what else. More stadiums are showing every other game. They're setting up areas to see every other game. Do you think it's because somebody wants to watch the Baltimore Orioles play the A's? No. Whether it's their fantasy or whether it's something else, I got to know what's happening. And if you can do it on your phone now more than ever, and you can, you want to create an experience. It has to be social. It has to be, I high-five the guy next to me, stranger. Right. And I have a chance to do things with the gambling aspect of it that has never been afforded to people.
Well, you're one of the smartest guys I know. How does baseball make that happen for their game? I mean, everybody's got a phone. Everybody's got their phone at the stadium. How does baseball make that happen?
So I'm not telling you I partake, but I partake. You create more numbers. You want Ronald Acuna over 1.5 total bases tonight? I got a place you can go get it. And it's things like that. I don't want to bet baseball games. I don't want to bet a game. I don't. Like, that to me is a little bit, I don't know how a game's going to go. But if I see a matchup I like, and I'm going to go, Spencer Strider last night, over 7.5 strikeouts. Okay, I'm in. He had 9. Matt Olson, over 1.5 bases. There's more stuff available. Again, you can have it if you want it. I'm not telling you it's not dangerous for some people either. I kind of get that too. Right. But they create it by having more available to you. Yeah. More options, more make it exciting that this at bat, not the game, not the 3-hour, 15-minute game that you used to have to worry about. Make this one moment, this next 2.5 minutes, make it exciting for whatever reason and however you can. Gambling just brings another aspect to it.
You're completely right. And the NFL sort of figured it out. When did you ever think you'd have FanDuel commercials, DraftKings commercials in the middle of games with live games going on?
They have to limit in the NFL how many of those they're going to show. That's like one of their concessions is, well, we don't want to give crack to everybody, so let's just limit the amount of commercials that we put in. I mean, okay, if that makes you sleep at night. Reg, the next thing that's going to come, I'm telling you, is you're going to be able to take an NFL game and go, will this team get 2 first downs on this drive? You're going to be able to live bet stuff like that. And again, I don't want to create monsters. But is it better than going to a bookie? Yeah, because it's taxable. I want it in my state. I want the taxes. Yeah. I want college. I want state schools to cost a little less money, not a little bit more. Those are the other parts that baseball, I think, has figured out. Oh, sure, we can look benevolent if we do this right. We can look like small people.
I like you're on with the PR man, the coach, talking ball on the BallFather Podcast presented by Sportskeeda. Just to sort of finish up with the Yanks, I don't want to talk about the Rays here in a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, the entire offseason in Yankee land, they were all talking about, you know what? We got to move. We've got to move to second base. We got to move Gleyber Torres. He's striking out a lot. He's not playing well. He's kind of pouting a little bit. Well, okay, 6 games into the season, he might be their best hitter right now. Okay, he started out Cole. Let's talk about Cole. Cole's pitched twice. Okay, Cole blistered the National League champs, the Phillies, allowed just 1 run over 6.1 innings. His ERA stands at an insanely low 0.73. which includes 19 strikeouts in 12 innings. Set the team strikeout record, broke my guy, Louisiana Lightning, Ron Gidger's record last year.
That's it.
But here's the part that's even more insane, and you know this from living in Atlanta with its weather. What's even more insane is that Cole has crushed 2 cold weather starts. In both cases, the temperature plummeted in the upper 40s. The fastball has been as dry, the baseball has been dry and slick. Pitchers have nightmares over conditions such as these, but not the unstoppable one at the top of the Yankees rotation. How do guys throw a baseball when it's 40 degrees? How does that happen?
Well, they used to actually be able to put some stick on their hands, and now, and they say they're coming back with, it's supposedly out. Look, I don't want to stand there when a guy's throwing 94 and he doesn't know where it's going. That's why batters were like, I don't care if they use some stickum. I'd rather it be that. Now, if you start to realize you're picking up balls with goop or the spin rate because the grip is so good that the spin rate is over the top, that was part of what they wanted, more balls in play. Let's take some of the strikeouts out of the game, because strikeouts, quite honestly, if you strike out 10 times, I strike out 10 times, do the math. That's 20 strikeouts. You know what that is? That's 6+ innings of baseball that there's no baseball.
Right.
Unless you are a fan of, I want to see my guy get 12 punchies today. Okay, it's a little bit easier for a pitcher at that point. The Cole thing, look, is interesting, Regs. They paid him, no doubt about it. If I'm a Yankee fan, here's what I'm saying. Okay, good. He's supposed to be good. He, along with everybody else now, has to be October good.
Right.
He'll help you get there. He'll keep,
And he hadn't been.
Well, and the team really hasn't been. So look, it's hard to win 20 games because you got to make 33 starts. You got to have a good enough offense behind you. You got to have a good bullpen. It's hard to win 20 games in baseball now because for a lot of factors, the numbers don't add up. Garrett Cole could go 18-5 if I'm a Yankee fan. Hell, he can go 15-8 if I'm a Yankee fan. I don't care. I got to get to the postseason, give this guy the ball as an ace. Literally, if it's a 7-game series, I got to be thinking he's got to go 3 times. That's all that matters for certain guys. The bar is now set at a different place than other people.
The guy that I'm worried about, and Cole, not Cole, Cashman's got a little bit of a pass on this. I think he screwed up when they signed Montez. I don't expect Montez back this year. Everybody who I talk to, who works up there and covers, I don't think they get him back. And I'm a little pissed that you spent that much money. The guy came in, got lit up for the last couple of games, and now he starts this year. That he talked about he's completely healthy. He's on the shoulder with some shoulder injuries. I don't think they get him back. But the other guy who's a concern is the guy who pitched out of his mind in San Francisco, Rodon, and he's hurt. I mean, what the hell happened?
Oh, what happened is these guys are good enough to get the big contract, and then much like the top-end guys, like the Scherzers, Verlanders, every night a guy goes to the mound. This is what I'm lying. You got to do this. You got to crush. You got to do this. That he survives tonight, and I see him in 5 days. Bullpen guys. He survives tonight, and I can use him again tomorrow. That's the craziness of the pitchers' contracts. That's why the Ohtani thing was going to be really interesting. Because let's say something happens, God forbid, to his arm. I lose the hitter as well. And how much money? $50 million, $55 million, $43 million. Verlander's on the shelf. Rodon on the shelf. And then it's guys like Kevin Gausman, and you go, that guy wasn't too good until the last couple of years. He's up in Toronto. He might win the American League Cy Young, but Toronto's in the same position. They need that group is good. They need to do something in the postseason. There are teams that you could say, right, are good.
Yeah.
But that's not good enough because now they're supposed to be elite. And the Dodgers, here's one for you. The Dodgers just spent the last 5 years. 5 years. That's not a small sample size. National League, They scored the most runs, gave up the fewest runs. That's incredible. But you know what they have to show for it? One baby World Series, the COVID year, 60-game World Series.
Right.
So as much as they spend, they go find gems on the mound. I'm sorry. When you do that and you have one 60-game World Series, I won't take it away from you, but it's not impressive.
No.
Like it's falling short. You're actually underachieving at that point. And for certain organizations, I'm sorry, being a playoff team isn't good enough. You've got to win something now in some of these cities.
Yeah. Do you, Torres right now, had 3 hits against the Phillies. They beat the Phillies, took 2 or 3 from the Phillies, took 3 from the Giants. Torres is hitting .421, which is insane right now. It's early. Do you think they move him, or do you think they let him stay there?
Look, what's the line? If you can do it in New York, how long do you think? Look, it's a buy low, sell high world.
Right.
What are you doing to replace it? Like, what does Cashman have to do to make them a better team? I got a general manager in Alex Anthopoulos that I trust him. He's done as good a job, I think a better job than any general manager or guy who's run a team in this city, organizationally, and that includes John Sherholtz. There's no knock to Sherholtz. They found parts and pieces, and they won a lot of divisions. But I trust Alex Anthopoulos because he says there's a certain number I'm not going to go over. See Freddie Freeman, see Dansby Swanson. They haven't paid Max Fried yet as they paid all these other guys. Why? Because they don't have to. And at 31, which is when he hits free agency, Max Fried's going to have a chance to walk, but he doesn't want to get into that 7-year deal for a pitcher. As long as you're consistent, they signed Strider, gave him $75 million for a guy who was basically a rookie for all intents and purposes last year. They're picking their spots. I can't sit here and go, well, that's a bad move. I don't know if it's a bad move. But I know when you can say that, and you lived in this world, when a general manager's made 5 bad moves, the 6th one that he makes, you know what I think I'm allowed to say? That's a bad move. Look at the guy's track record.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, let's talk about some teams who've made some really good moves.
Yeah.
They play in my state where I live in. The Rays are I think they're still the only Major League Baseball team that's undefeated.
Yep.
Small payroll, terrible stadium, really hard to get to, really even harder to get out of, just a dump of a place. And yet they're 5-0, 6-0, and nobody's going to the games. What's going on with that team?
So they actually just came out, and I've joked about it in Oakland and Tampa. They keep drawing these pretty pictures about all these stadiums they're going to build, and then, no, we got one that's even nicer. And then another guy gets some colored pencils, and, this is going to be great. And then nothing ever happens. Nobody ever puts a shovel in the ground. Nobody's got any money. You know what's funny? Like, did your father ever do this to you? You'd come ask for something when you were a kid, and he'd pull out both pockets.
Yeah.
They're empty. Yeah, they're empty.
Yeah.
Which is it's one of the funniest visuals in the world. I try to do it to my kids once in a while. I go, hey, listen, the ATM, it's got no money in it. Right. That's what's happened in both of those cities. People draw pretty pictures, and then you go, okay, who's going to pay for it? I don't know. I don't have any money. It's the guy at the restaurant who never has a credit card or cash. You look around and you go, again? You're not paying again?
Right, again.
But as an organization, they are as fundamentally sound as anybody in baseball. And, $73 million, I think it's the 4th lowest payroll. Here's how crazy a baseball season can start. They're 6-0. They are the only undefeated team in baseball. They won all 6 of their games by 4 or more runs. Right? Wow. You go, okay, what's the big deal? They won games by 4 or more runs. The last team to do that in baseball is a team I've never heard of. 1874, the St. Louis Maroons were the last team to win their first 6 games by 4 or more runs. I read this and I was like, what? Who are the St. Louis Maroons, and why has this not happened for 150 years? It doesn't seem like that huge a deal, but it's 150 years since somebody's done it, and it's a team on a $73 million payroll to boot.
Unbelievable. I mean, everybody who I talk to over there, they talk about how good of a guy Kevin Cash is. They talk about how smart he is and how he's a player's manager. Guys want to play for him. And yet, you look at the roster up and down. You think, they got rid of Kiermaier. He's now playing in Toronto.
They lost bullpen guys, Nick Anderson, Colin McHugh, 2 guys were up here. They find replacements. Now, here's their problem, and it is a problem. Randy Arozarena is a good player. Wanda Franco is a really good player. So they've got a little bit of cornerstone guys. But if something goes wrong, I don't know if they'll ever have enough money to throw a wallet at a problem. if they call you to make a trade, hang up. You're about to be snookered. You're about to be taken. So that's what they do well. Their players know what they want. Now, Cash is interesting because remember a couple of years ago, the Blake Snell incident in the World Series game. And Blake Snell was pissed off. Tampa people were pissed off. Kevin Cash learned from it. When you're that close and you can almost taste it, you don't want to feel like, one decision might have won it. But that's the game as well, even in a 5 or a 7 game series.
Yeah.
They are fundamentally, organizationally as sound as anybody in sports. The problem with that is fundamentally sound sometimes has a point where it ends because the other guy just bludgeons you with their dollars. They just bludgeon you with their talent. And that's sort of the place that Tampa might find themselves in October.
Yeah, Franco was hurt all last year. They lost the right fielder, the left fielder, Margot. They lost him for a little bit of time. Rosarino, somebody was telling, I think it might have been you telling me, no, that wasn't you. Somebody was telling me that Rosarino, they have all these hitters meetings before, and he would show up to the meeting late, they've got this whole scouting report on how they're trying to pitch you. He wouldn't even read it, didn't even look at it, wouldn't read it, wouldn't look at it.
Yeah, they were freaks. Look, he hit a home run and he stopped at third base. Did you see him the other day? He hit a home run and he just stopped at third base and did one of these. I said, damn, we're not even waiting to get to home plate to do this stuff now. Here's one, a guy in Boston the other day, they thought he hit a pinch hit home run in the 8th to tie a game up. Right field, it's a place called Pesky's Pole. Johnny Pesky played there. And it's it's 264 feet away from home plate. Right. So the guy hits it and he's waiting. He's not sure if it's fair. The umpire says fair, home run. He flips his bat. He runs all the way around. He gets to home plate and they go, hold on, foul ball, do it again. And I'm like, damn, we're getting bat flips on foul balls now. We're getting this stuff is Ronald Acuna here. He did something last year. It was a 33-second trip around. 33 seconds. He did something at home plate. He did something between first and second. He did a little stop between second and third. And then at home plate, he did a LeBron thing. I said, I've never seen anybody do 4 things in one home run. 4. So that's, again, I'm not old man screaming at, clouds. I just find it interesting that in the old days, I talked to a guy named Jack Billingham, 80 years old, played for the Cincinnati Reds, the Big Red Machine. He said, I didn't throw hard. He said, but when I wanted to get you, I'd get you. And these guys seem to not be getting gotten anymore. They can do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah. You don't have that as much in the game, and I think it's hurt, guys showing up the other guy, taking 33 seconds to get around the bases. That the old days, that didn't happen.
Well, you catch one in the ribs.
You hit one where he or one in the head.
Listen, there were certain guys who said, unless that helmet flew off you as you were trying to get back, I didn't actually do my job.
We're going to finish up with Chris Domino, on the PR man, the coach talking ball, the BallFather Podcast. So, Chris, give us your take on what's going on with the team that you covered with your Braves.
Yeah, so we got a guy in Orlando Arcia who's a shortstop. He beat everybody out. I've never heard a guy be talked about. He's 28 years old. People around here are like, that 34-year-old guy. He's 28. He played in Milwaukee so long ago, people think he's older. He's your 9-hole hitter. Had a home run last night. Had the game-winning RBI. Walk-off. The 9-hole nobody was better at it last year than the Atlanta Braves. 7, 8, 9, nobody got more run production than the Atlanta Braves. All fact. You can look it up. 7, 8, 9, 9. Ronald Acuna's had a 6 at-bat game already because you flip over the lineup. Matt Olson looks pretty comfortable. He had a 4 strikeout day. What does he do? He comes back the next day with 3 extra base hits, including a home run. This is a good baseball team. Will they survive the arm stuff like everybody else? Kyle Wright's not up here yet. Mike Soroka's not up here. Ian Anderson, who was a hero in the postseason, is not here. You had 2 guys make their major league debut in the first 5 games of the season. That doesn't usually happen with good teams. This is a really good, solid baseball team. Their offense has a chance to be as good as anything we've seen around here in a number of years, and that will tell you that's pretty good.
Hey, we're going to leave it there, pal. I'm going to get to Atlanta, come see your Braves, and obviously I'll find you. We'll go chop it up, have some dinner someplace, man. Always a pleasure.
I know bar owners, restaurant guys, and I can get you in a building across the street. I'm the host with the most.
I know that. I'm aware of that. Have a good one. Get the best of your family, man.
All right, Reg, you too. Thanks, bud.
See you, buddy. Bye.